Yeah, Vicksburg police say a man was found dead hanging from a tree this afternoon. Police say the discovery was made in the woods on Washington Street near one of the casinos in Vicksburg. Captain Curtis Judge identified the victim as Corey Zukatis of Brandon. Now, police say right now the case is being classified as a death investigation. No other information is being released at this point.
A 21-year-old was found dead hanging from a tree at Delta State University. Campus police say the body of 21-year-old Trey Reed, a black student, was discovered by staff members on Monday morning. Authorities quickly ruling out foul play, and during a press conference.
Look at who's looking for him. Between Pam Bondi and Cash Patel, they shouldn't be head of security at a junior college. But these are what we have as the head of law enforcement in this country, and it wasn't that because of their acumen. It was because of their loyalty, their fealty. And now, when you need professionalism, you need people with expertise. You don't have it.
I know half of y'all don't care, and I know half of you guys will not even repost this, but this is serious, and we need to demand justice.
Something sinister is brewing in Mississippi, and the story you're about to hear is one that mainstream media would rather you look away from. A story that echoes America's darkest chapters yet is unfolding right now in 2025. Picture this: a young, bright 21-year-old black student with his entire future ahead of him suddenly found dead, hanging from a tree on his own college campus. Within hours, authorities rushed to label it a suicide, ruling out foul play as if the investigation was already predetermined. But what if I told you that this official story doesn't add up? That his family, civil rights leaders, and now even D.L. Hughley himself are saying this case reeks of a cover-up? This isn't just about one tragedy, it's about history repeating itself, about silence where there should be outrage, and about the lives of vulnerable people being treated as disposable in a system that has always thrived on looking the other way. So before we go further, make sure you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications, because this channel is dedicated to exposing the stories they want buried, and trust me, you're going to want to stay tuned for this one.
A black kid was found hanging from a tree in Mississippi, and something really doesn't add up about this entire story. Almost immediately, family and friends started saying something very different, that Trey's arms and a leg were broken. The coroner pushed back, saying that he didn't see broken bones in his exam, which leaves us with two very different stories: the official version and the one people closest to Trey believe. Now, Delta State shut down classes and canceled events, though no lockdown was issued. Officials said there was no ongoing threat, but let's be real. A black man found hanging from a tree in Mississippi will never feel straightforward. History matters here. Generations of lynchings and cover-ups.
Corey's race has been confirmed as white, and it makes things a little less like it's racially motivated. I don't know. It's still a little fishy to me. You have two men on the same day hung from trees. That seems wild to me.
Trey Reed and now Corey Zukatis, both found in Mississippi hanging from trees. Now, when it comes to Corey Zukatis, there's not much information that can be found on the internet, which to me is the problem, because I'm trying to figure out why these deaths are not getting national news coverage. I also do believe that these are all in connection to the death of Charlie Kirk.
Now let's break down exactly why Trey Reed's death may be one of the most chilling cases of our time. Trey Reed was just 21 years old, a student at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi, when he was discovered dead on September 15, 2025, but the way his death was presented immediately raised red flags. Staff members on campus reportedly found Trey's body hanging from a tree, yet within hours, local authorities were already claiming foul play was not suspected. Think about that for a second. A black man found hanging from a tree in Mississippi, one of the state's most infamous for lynchings, and before any thorough investigation could even take place, the narrative was locked in. It was called a suicide. Case closed, nothing to see here. But Trey's family, civil rights advocates, and community members immediately pushed back. They knew Trey, they knew his plans, and they knew the history of this state, and nothing about this situation looked like an accident. The speed of the dismissal itself looked like the real crime. To make matters worse, the family was told one version of events, while the media reported another. According to Trey's relatives, police officers came to their home and informed them that Trey had been found dead in his dorm room, but shortly after, the news broke that his body was hanging from a tree outside on campus. Two completely different accounts of the same tragedy, both coming from supposed official channels. That's not just miscommunication, that's manipulation, and it immediately suggested that something bigger was being hidden.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Cousin was found hanging from a tree, and they trying to rule it as a suicide. Bruise. Both his arms were broken, and he had a broken leg.
And it didn't stop there. Family members came forward saying Trey's body showed signs that didn't match a suicide at all. His cousin insisted both his arms were broken, along with one of his legs. How could someone with multiple fractures pull off a hanging? But the coroner's report told a different story, claiming there were no broken bones and no signs of an assault. So which is it? Two stories, two realities, and only one is the truth. When grieving relatives and community members are forced to fight against conflicting narratives just to understand how their loved one died, that's when you know there's a cover-up. And then comes the insult on top of the injury. Delta State University, the very campus where Trey Reed lived, studied, and ultimately died, apparently never even reached out to his family directly. Imagine being the mother of a young man whose life was cut short on university grounds, and instead of hearing from the school, you're learning details from journalists and online reports. Trey's mother said she spoke to him just days before, and he was excited about attending the university. There was no sign he was planning something tragic, no indication of despair. Yet not a single representative from the school bothered to call her, to offer condolences, or even to clarify the circumstances. The silence of the institution spoke louder than any words could. It's as though Trey's life and his death were just an inconvenience to their image. And in that silence, the narrative spun by authorities was allowed to stand unchallenged, while his family was left desperate for answers.
Cannot call their political opponents Nazis and fascists and enemies of the state because they disagree with their policy priorities. I mean, this is something we should have learned in grade school.
We have the enemy outside, which would be the very standard countries, and we have the enemy from within. We have some very sick people from within. It is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, but you know, we do have an enemy from within. We have some very bad people, and those people are also very dangerous. They would like to take down our country. They'd like to have our country be a nice communist country or a fascist in any way they can. And we have to be careful of that. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia. But the enemy from within is a very sick group of people.
This type of language spurs on depraved people, deranged people who take that as a cue.
But Trey's family wasn't backing down. They began demanding the one thing that could clear everything up immediately: surveillance footage. This is a modern college campus with cameras everywhere, in dorm halls, parking lots, libraries, even sidewalks. The family's lawyer said that from the moment Trey left his dorm room, there should be footage tracking his every step until the time of his death. So why wasn't that footage released? Why hasn't the university turned over tapes that could prove once and for all whether Trey was alone, whether someone followed him, or whether foul play took place? The refusal to share these recordings only deepens suspicions. As Trey's mother put it, just bring the surveillance, bring the cameras so we'll know exactly what happened. Yet here we are, with officials asking the public to accept a story without showing the evidence. That is not transparency, that is obstruction. When families have to hire outside voices just to demand answers, you know something isn't right. Enter Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney known for fighting some of the most high-profile cases of racial injustice in recent history. Trey's family brought him in, and immediately he called out the inconsistencies and the vagueness in the official report. "We cannot accept vague conclusions when so many questions remain," he declared, promising to lead an independent investigation and to hold authorities accountable. Crump doesn't attach his name to a case unless there's substance, unless there's smoke worth chasing.
Here we are yet again in the aftermath of a mass shooting. This is not normal. I'm providing details on yet another multiple victim shooting in which 8 people have been injured by gunfire. This time this occurred at a homeless encampment. The people of Minneapolis deserve peace and safety. All residents of the city deserve that on their streets and in their neighborhoods and in their homes. And I know it's been a lot of violence lately, and we just want our community to know that we are not going to give up and that we will continue to fight so that every person in this city can be safe.
And his involvement sent a clear message: Trey Reed's death cannot be brushed under the rug. But what makes this story even more disturbing is that Trey's wasn't the only body discovered that day. Just hours after Trey's death, another man, a 35-year-old white homeless man named Corey Zukadis, was also found hanging from a tree in Mississippi. This time, it was in a wooded area near Washington Street in Vicksburg. And yet again, details were sparse. The case was quickly labeled as a death investigation, and the story barely made headlines. 2 men, 2 hangings in the same state, on the same day. What are the odds? Authorities wanted the public to believe this was all a tragic coincidence, but for people paying attention, the pattern was impossible to ignore. D.L. Hughley, known for never holding back when it comes to calling out hypocrisy, didn't let this slide. He went public, exposing how the deaths of Trey Reed and Corey Zukadis were being downplayed while the media obsessed over the Charlie Kirk assassination. He posted about it on Instagram, calling the situation hypocrisy, and he wasn't wrong. Think about it. When Charlie Kirk was killed, politicians on both sides of the aisle rushed to offer condolences. Flags were flown at half-staff, his body was laid in state, and people even lost their jobs for speaking out against him. But when Trey Reed, a young black student, was found hanging from a tree in Mississippi, the coverage was practically non-existent. Where was the outrage? Where was the justice? The disparity in coverage wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. And this silence sends a chilling message about whose lives are deemed valuable in this country and whose can be erased without consequence. To understand why people refuse to accept Trey Reed's death as a mere tragedy, you have to remember the soil it happened on. Mississippi has one of the darkest histories of racial violence in America. For decades, the state was infamous for public lynchings of black people, acts meant not just to kill individuals but to terrorize entire communities. Emmett Till's murder in 1955, when a 14-year-old boy was brutally killed for allegedly whistling at a white woman, remains one of the most infamous examples. His killers were acquitted despite admitting to taking him from his home. That case put Mississippi on the map as ground zero for racial terror, and the echoes of that history are still felt today. So when a young black man is found hanging from a tree in Mississippi, you can't just dismiss it as a suicide. Context matters, and history matters. Otherwise, the cycle just keeps repeating. But this isn't only about history repeating itself, it's about how systemic violence has evolved in modern times. The same forces that once orchestrated public lynchings now operate through police brutality, mass incarceration, and the neglect of marginalized communities. When authorities rush to declare suspicious deaths as accidents without thorough investigation, when schools fail to communicate with families, and when the media ignores these stories altogether, it's not coincidence, it's systemic erasure. It's history hiding in plain sight, reshaped for the 21st century. And it's not just about race either. Corey Zukadis, the white homeless man found hanging the same day as Trey, highlights how poverty and homelessness also put people in danger of being treated as expendable. Just days before Corey's death, Fox News host Brian Kilmeade made an on-air comment suggesting that homeless people should be euthanized. Yes, euthanized. Then suddenly, a homeless man turns up dead, hanging from a tree. Are we really supposed to believe that's another coincidence? Or is it a glimpse at how dehumanizing rhetoric creates permission for real-life violence against society's most vulnerable? And just 2 days later, a homeless shelter in Minneapolis was attacked in a mass shooting that left 7 people critically injured. When you connect the dots, a horrifying picture emerges. One of marginalized people, from black students to the homeless, being targeted, silenced, and erased, while the public is distracted with stories about political martyrs like Charlie Kirk. So the question remains, are Trey Reed and Corey Zukadis just tragic cases, or are they warnings? Are these deaths isolated, or are they symptoms of a much bigger war being waged against the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized in America? The silence of the media, the contradictions in the reports, and the lack of transparency all point to the same conclusion: someone doesn't want us to know the truth. And until we demand it, until we stop swallowing official narratives without proof, these stories will keep happening, buried under distractions while history keeps repeating. So now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Trey Reed's death was really a suicide, or do you think D.L. Hughley is right to call this a cover-up? And what about Corey Zukadis? Just coincidence or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and let's make sure Trey's name, Corey's name, and the truth don't disappear into silence.